Perfect.
Here we are again, folks, this time to talk about the brand new Storm DNA coil. This is a Pearl version of the original DNA, so exact same EXO cover stock formula, just in a Pearl version, and that same strong, high differential, high intermediate differential asymmetric core. We don't get a lot of Pearl balls that I would characterize as slow response time in the Storm family of products. Typically the Storm stuff wants to hook quite a bit down lane, and the coil for me is one of the more slow response Pearl asymmetrical balls from the Storm family that I've ever thrown. Personally, I find this type of shape really usable, particularly blending out the cliff. Solid balls can be a little too slow for me and be a little flat whenever they hit the pocket, and this bridges the gap nicely to something that's strong and Pearl and a little more angular, and something really slow and early, maybe like a gem. So this big, slow response asymmetrical core really provides me a lot of control for being really strong, and I can continue to slow down as I move in and really get it to go left to right pretty well. In the video today, I just kind of steadily move left and gear the speed down as needed. I didn't have to just really trick it and rotate it a bunch. I was able to get it to hook in the right spot front to back, where as long as I had the speed right and it hit the window the right way, I didn't have to rotate it to get it to come off the spot. I can definitely see myself using this ball to blend out the cliff on a higher friction surface where something like a gem wouldn't be near as effective, or even just getting slow and getting across it as a more blended pattern broke down, because this is going to be something that hooks off of the spot and down lane because of the large amount of intermediate differential, but it's not going to go early, so I can float it through the front a little bit easier. This wasn't a dead fresh condition, but it was fairly fresh. It had had a trios league on it about a day before, and you can see this thing has no problem getting back from pretty far in to pretty far out. I like to see this type of continuation out of the larger asymmetric cores because sometimes they can get a little hook stoppy, and while this one's slower response, it doesn't necessarily get super forward once it gets to the pin deck. I did go with a 5 1/4 by 4 by 2 inch VLS layout on this ball, so for being a little longer and a little more responsive, again, it keeps its axis really well. First up, we have the Attention Star. For comparison, my Attention Star is probably at about a 3000 grit finish. I just breathed on it with a 2000 pad, 3000 pad to get that polish all the way off because it was a little bit over under when it was box finish. And as you can see here, the Attention Star is a little bit more responsive overall, maybe a touch cleaner down the lane. Overall, I think I read the coil as a little more tumbly and chuggy, where I read the Attention Star as a little more whippy, even though they're both Pearl ASIMs. And we'll see the difference in the way that they spin up and hit the break point, as well as the difference in the continuation window and the way they go through the pins, as I continue to kind of chase it left here and adjust my speed accordingly. As far as our product line goes and how these two fit together, the Attention Star probably is the next slowest response Pearl ASIM ball in our product line, at least for me, and so I felt that these were a good comparison because I would use these in a similar spot depending on the conditions. I'd probably use the coil on a little more oil and the Attention Star on something that was a little more blended or a little more light volume in general. I definitely found that they both looked the best with a little bit softer ball speed and a little more across it. Next up, we're going to compare to the Virtual Energy Blackout. The Blackout for me is a really clean, really angular, asymmetrical Pearl shape. This is more typical of what we see from those Pearl ASIM balls from Storm. And the difference here is much more stark between the coil and the Blackout. The coil is significantly earlier, you can observe it, and significantly less responsive. You can see from a little further right, it's pretty tough to get the Blackout to blend out the friction and lay off the right way, where the coil is a little, again, more slow response, and so that's what you see is that break point's a little softer, the ball makes less of a distinct move off the end of the pattern. Now as I get in, I can throw the Blackout harder, get it to the spot quicker, and it'll still respond off of it and tip up, where for the coil, like I mentioned earlier, I've got to be slower speed to get across it to give it time to make the corner. The DNA coil is available now if you'd like to pick one up. This is a great Pearl ball for the top of the bag. Really good for the cliff, for fresh. So if you'd like one, come see me at Balls of Fame Pro Shops or go to your local Storm VIP Pro Shop.